don't think that there's any business out there that is, that truly is in jeopardy of like, oh my God, the AI evolution or revolution is going to lead to mass exodus in my business and I'm going to be left empty-handed. People won't want to work here. I just don't think that there's any of those types of risks forthcoming.
Welcome back, everybody. This is another episode of AI Got This. And today we've got some guests, Jeffrey Russel and Aaron Harris, and we're going to talk about AI as it relates to ERP systems and what we think the future of ERP and AI have to bear and what they're bringing to the table. So maybe we can go around and do some quick introductions. Aaron, why don't you go ahead and go first? And
Sure. Yep. Thanks for having me. I'm Aaron Harris. I'm the Global Chief Technology Officer for Sage. I've been the CTO for a little over 5 years now. Prior to that, I was going back longer than I care to admit. I was part of the founding team of Intact.
Fantastic. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Jeff?
Yeah, hello, everybody. So Jeff Russel here, partner at Armanino. I lead our technology consulting business, really kind of helping clients adopt and implement business applications to help transform their business. And certainly AI is a big part of that. So looking forward to talking about that topic today. Nice to meet you all.
Awesome. All right, well, let's dive in. So, we sort of think about AI and how it has different applications in our business world, but we don't really always think about AI embedded in ERP systems. And ERP systems, right, have been around for a long time. People have been utilizing them to help with their business and streamline process forever. But how do you guys start thinking about the role that AI plays inside of an ERP system? And I know that, Aaron, you're primarily looking at Sage Intacct, and Jeff, primarily we're working with the Microsoft, you're working with the Microsoft stack, but in general, maybe we can make some broad strokes here and then dive in more specifically to different platforms.
I'm happy to go because this is my favorite topic.
Fantastic.
So we break it down into 3 areas, and it's really straightforward. We call it continuous accounting. That's a fancy word for automation. The second area is continuous assurance. So it's kind of a necessarily paired investment with automation as assurance. Can you actually trust the work? Can you trust the data that's been captured? And then the third big area for us is insights. So using AI to continuously look for insights in business information. Now with generative AI, we add a fourth to that, and that's enabling everyone to access accounting. So the one of the possibilities with chatbots is enabling everybody to be successful, whether it's a department head who needs to check on their budget, or the accounting team who needs someone to approve something. Generative AI adds this fourth element of enabling everyone to be successful in the roles they play with accounting workflows.
That's awesome. So let me hone in on that just for a second more. So when you say be successful with a chatbot in accounting, can you be more specific about okay, what does that mean exactly to somebody maybe who isn't as familiar as the 3 of us are on this call today?
Sure. Yeah. So I like to have a little fun when I talk about this. And what I'll do is I'll go onto the internet and find the oldest, clunkiest screenshot I can of an old ERP. And I'll put it on a slide and I'll walk people through the torture of what it's like for a department head, division head who never has to go into ERP, to have to go in there because they're getting chased by the accounting team to review a purchase order, right? Or to approve something. And the reality is that big old monolithic ERP really wasn't designed to make a casual user confidently successful.
Yeah.
It was designed to make a power user efficient. So you've got to sort of memorize keystrokes and know across the 800 menu items where to find things. And it's one of the biggest barriers to adoption for the business outside of the finance and the operations team. And so if I can create a way to interact with the technology for that casual user that makes that casual user successful, it helps everybody, right? And so a much better experience is that a chatbot nudges me from within Teams or Slack or whatever the communications platform the company happens to be using, and walks the user through. Hey, there's a purchase order you need to approve here. Here's some details. You can click here if you want to view it. It's within budget. It's already been approved by X, Y, and Z. So I recommend you approve it. Or maybe look at this, right? That is a far better experience than the old monolithic ERP has to offer. And so that's one, I think, pretty powerful example. The other example is, imagine a small business owner who needs to deal with complex accounting and finance information. Perhaps they're putting together a packet of financial statements to get a loan, and they don't actually know what insights are buried in that data that they're giving to the bank. And so, as another example of enabling everybody to access accounting, we can use large language models to rapidly evaluate that information and call out the insights so they're prepared for that conversation with their banker. So two kind of extreme examples, but this is the new, much better way of interacting with technology that large language models enable.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you're giving examples too, where one is, we're searching for information and asking the data something, and the other one is the generative AI is prompting us for information. So awesome. All right, Jeff, same question to you. How do you see ERP and AI sort of holding hands as we walk into the future?
Yeah, so I see a couple of things related to how AI is going to change ERP, but I also see something that I'll hit on that I think where ERP and sort of the presence and sort of the history behind ERP, even maybe some of the gore of it, as Aaron reminded us, it will also actually drive adoption of AI. So I'll kind of hit on it from a couple of ways. I think one, I mean, it has to be said, I think at a most rudimentary, like near-term level, there's an automation component that ERP systems like provide a lot of governance, they provide a lot of structure, consistency, things that help businesses scale, help businesses make better decisions. But they can be, in many cases, even when effectively implemented, that they can be a burdensome tool to the use, right? Certain things can be a little bit click heavy, keystroke heavy. And while all, I think, ERP vendors out there are continuing to look at ways to improve the interface, AI is a way of like making massive leaps and really step function changes on that regard, or in that way, that you can't really do through just traditional, user interface type evolution. So, and then I do think that does directly hit to Aaron's topic about, user adoption and sort of shallowing out the valley of despair and the change management curve, the hype curve that you got to navigate with technology. So I think that's important. It also has to be said that reality is that AI and in even ERP it's going to take away and sort of alleviate the need to do some of the more rudimentary things that I mean, how many people out there have had to hire data stewards to go in and like hand crank entering transactions or order information and whatnot, and certainly AI will be able to replace in many cases a lot of that type of activity. But what that's really going to do is going to elevate the stakeholders, the people that are using the system, even down to the entry level clerks, if you will, to be able to do things that are arguably more value accretive to a company or a business than just physically using the tool as like an operator. So I think it's going to kind of really allow us to kind of elevate the talent and what talent is able to do with the applications. So I think businesses are going to see that change coming. The other angle of this I think that's interesting is because ERP is one of the few places like in the business like technology landscape where there is sort of this rigor, there's controls, there's governance, and really an understanding. I think that process and how you use the tool is really important. It means that there's more integrity to the data, right? Not to say that there isn't examples out there where you don't have that, but it more naturally creates a tighter, more controlled, predictable, reliable data set. And we all, hopefully know at this point that AI is extremely powerful, but also relies heavily on the quality of what you put in, right? Garbage in equals garbage out was always true in the old days. I still think that's true in the AI days. So if you don't want glue on your pizza, like you need to make sure you put the right data in there. And so I think
It was
ERP
edible glue, Jeff. Come on.
ERP invites that, right? I think the point is that we're already a step forward relative to the data, and most of the data that matters to an enterprise is going to be in a CRM or an ERP system. I mean, not to say all of it, and I don't want to understate the value of AI helping with unstructured data too, but at least relative to having those controls in place, I think it could drive people to even more desirable, like I need to get ERP, a new modernized ERP so that I have that data at my fingertips to use from an AI standpoint.
Yeah, that capability. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important, right? So the data being clean is certainly an element that we have to focus on a regular basis. And I'll give you an example. We did a demo to a prospect a couple of weeks ago where we showed a small language chatbot using Copilot Studio, and we actually had it on their website. And their communications and marketing person came on and said, "Well, that's wrong." And we were like, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, we would never say that." And then we clicked through and showed her on the actual website where that was a direct quote that the language model that was using. So I completely agree. I also think that when we look at ERP systems, the interesting thing about this is that the transactional data typically is pretty clean, because if you're selling something or you're producing a service or whatever, unless you've got thousands of returns, which most organizations don't, your transactional data is pretty clean. Are you guys thinking about, and this is for both of you, right? How does AI play a role in either cleansing that data or finding data that maybe is inconsistent, or how that sort of looks in the landscape of either keeping data clean and or a data migration process as you move from one ERP system to another?
So, I mean, there's a couple of leaps here, but let me propose something. So today, the way data moves across different products or technologies within an organization, good organizations have some ETL platform, and IT has gotten involved, and they've built some automation with controls and with a real focus on data quality. But in many cases, somebody's exporting data from one system, and they're having to sort of reconfigure the data to import it into another system. And these systems are giving them really inflexible ways to do that. So, if you're using comma delimited files, for example, you've got to have the right column headers, and they've got to be delimited the right way. And you got to use single quotes or double quotes, in order to demarcate, text versus whatever. If AI can simplify that process by minimizing or adding more flexibility, then there will be sort of more flexibility and agility in moving data around. So I don't know that it necessarily makes data quality better in the sense that it's more accurate or more correct, but what it does do is enhance the richness of the data, because it's simply easier for data to flow. And so a customer database that's got 10 values that are absolutely correct may be less valuable than a customer database that's got 300 values. And perhaps one of those is a subjective value and isn't terribly important to analysis, and maybe isn't as high, the accuracy or the quality isn't where it should be. So I think AI is more about increasing the flow of data, increasing the richness of data, enabling greater access to data across an organization, less so on driving greater quality. Having said that, AI is pretty good at outlier detection, right? It's one of the core competencies that we've built. So you can use AI as that sort of high-powered review that can analyze lots of data and look for outliers. But outliers aren't necessarily incorrect, right? When you know, the outlier detection that we've built, so we've got outlier capabilities to look for problems with general ledger transactions. It's about 1% accurate. Well, that 1% is exactly where we want it to be, because, you know, if an accounting team has to review 1 million transactions a month, and we've given them confidence that we can show them the 10,000 that they should be reviewing instead of 1 million, right? And within that 10,000, we're finding 100 that actually need to be changed, and we're not missing any. That is a huge value to the human. So we always have to keep in mind that AI, by definition, is not 100% accurate, right? That is not the value that it brings. It's its ability to analyze massive amounts of information, and with the right expectations and the right experience, the human can come in and, you know, provide that human level of review that does then get it to the level of accuracy that you want.
Yeah, agreed.
I think the other thing I would pile on there, I would agree with everything Aaron said. I would say, relative to the capabilities that are inherent to AI around anomaly detection, outliers, I think one of the benefits is that AI, particularly within ERP, it gives you the opportunity as a, you know, business, as, you know, users of the system, to interact with the ERP in a different way. So when it comes to looking at, like, you know, it could be a P&L, it could be a cash flow statement, it could be, you know, some sort of sales trending analysis that maybe AI has generated. It could also tell you, hey, Carmel, like, this is what you asked me for, and I'm going to give it to you, and here it is. But I'm also going to tell you that this is including data from a region that is, you know, it's a new region for you, a new product has been launched, and it may be inaccurately skewing down, you know, metrics, or maybe not inaccurately, to Aaron's point, but it can make some suggestions around that, right? So it can kind of help you and help, you know, businesses like interact differently with the reporting and the analytics and things to actually get to the right conclusions that you're trying to make, as opposed to just like doing the thing in a specific way because that's what you asked it to do. So I think that idea of sort of this like bilateral interaction with the AI, like similar to a chat bot or other things that are AI fueled, is really powerful for where we're going to be able to take ERP and AI in the future.
So can I give an example there?
Yeah,
I mean,
please.
spot on. A few months ago, I was playing with an early version of Sage Copilot. We're first deploying it for small businesses to allow them to basically interact with their data, right? You know, get answers. And the question that I asked was, what's my cash balance? And, you know, superficially, that sounds like a pretty simple answer. And this is where the experience is so important. And so, you know, Sage Copilot came back with an answer that said your cash balance is 0. However, that's the balance that's sitting in your petty cash account on your balance sheet. That's probably not the question you were asking. Here's actually the balances of your bank accounts, and the sum of the balances in those bank accounts is X, right? And so exactly to your point, where AI it's not just enabling a more fluid sort of natural language interaction. It's able to have a conversation that can guide the user to the right answer, even when perhaps they haven't asked the question in the right way. It's incredibly powerful, but getting that right, wow. I mean, you know, it sort of gets back to this notion that you use AI in cases where there's not a deterministic answer, right? It's especially powerful where there is ambiguity, where there's a non-deterministic answer. And now with large language models, we can turn that into a conversation.
Yeah.
Instead of just, you know, some 80% accuracy rate because it answered exactly what you asked.
Yeah, I love that. That's a brilliant example. It's so good. So I'm gonna pivot a little bit. And so when we think about doing these ERP implementations, do you guys think about AI being an area that we utilize to fill in some of the gaps that maybe exist in ERP systems in specific industries? Or do you think that it's going to really be embedded in the overall solution as we continue to go?
That's a good question. I've got a couple thoughts on that. I think one thing that AI will be able to do is bridge gaps, maybe not necessarily within the application, and maybe it can, but I'm not really answering that part first. But a gap that a business experiences where, hey, I'm not at a point today, and maybe ever, where I'm going to have one business application that's going to run my entire enterprise from soup to nuts across every function of the business. And maybe my business is a portfolio business with multiple divisions or entities, and I've grown through acquisition. I mean, it could be multiple systems for multiple reasons, but traditionally that's something that, I think the idea of adopting and unifying on a technology stack is going to continue to be a strategy that companies employ. But it's not perfect, right? It's not everything everywhere all at once. Not an intentional movie reference, but we're not getting there realistically. But I think AI can bridge that gap where it's like, hey, I am leveraging Salesforce or other technology on the front office side. And I'm leveraging other technology maybe in the field for service-based organizations. And AI can be that bridge that doesn't require necessarily the same traditional type of integration, right, that we've built kind of in the monolithic ERP era. I think we can move towards AI being kind of an agent that is a go-between for not just for data, but even just sort of the flow of information, kind of as Aaron described earlier. I think the way data flows, how things are connected, insights that you need to gather from one place to make a decision in another. I think AI will play a role there. So that's kind of my initial thought on how that's going to help businesses from a gaps perspective.
Yeah, my first reaction there is that AI basically is a superpower human, right? And can use essentially whatever tools we provide for humans. And so if you've got a product that enables you to track invoices, then AI will be able to do that, and it'll be able to do it 100 times more productively than a human can. But I'll give you an example here. Again, early days of working through some of the use cases for Sage Copilot. We worked on a scenario where we've got cash flow forecasting capabilities, and there's a change in the cash flow forecast, and we've got a large language model that's able to help a finance leader decide some options on what to do with that cash. And turns out that maybe one of those options is using that cash to spin up a new marketing campaign. That's where we have to stop, because we don't have a product that can do a marketing campaign. And right. I know this sounds kind of elementary on this call here, but it's sort of a grounding principle when you're building stuff with AI. Like, if the product doesn't already have the means to do it, AI is not going to magically make it possible.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I hesitate a little bit there is that large language models can write code, right? And so now you have to sort of imagine that Copilot is somebody that on the fly can write code against the API in your product, and suddenly its ability to do things is not bounded anymore to the user interface, like navigating to an invoice and doing the data entry. It can use the API to query some data. It can analyze the data. It can then create a transaction, based on that data and some user input. So we are in this new era where AI can use tools and it can write code, but still fundamentally, if the underlying product can't do something, AI is not going to magically make that possible.
Right. And I think that's sort of, the ethical use of AI, if you will, Aaron, right? So we have to be responsible about when we're putting AI into our products and into what we're doing to be thinking about those things. So I think you're spot on. So let me ask you guys one more question, and this one is a little bit different. Like, okay, when you're looking at the users that you interact with on a regular basis, I know that when I go talk to people, there's fear. Actually, I was on a call this morning where a lady said, "Well, listen, I would love my job to be more efficient, but I don't want to lose my job," right? So, how do you think about AI in that context, playing along with ERP? And I definitely have an opinion about this, but I'd love to hear your guys's and see how you sort of counterbalance that theory that, Minority Report is taking over and we're going to have to take our eyes out and, all that good stuff. And so,
I think Jeff said it. I think Jeff, said it's about elevating the work.
yeah,
And that's the experience that we see with customers. There's this phenomena where a customer, perhaps they're implementing AI that does invoice processing, and they've got a team of people that just process invoices. And there's this initial reluctance. They don't know if the AI is going to work well. They don't know what's going to happen to them. But we see this play out time and again, where once they implement that AI and they see how much better it makes their work life,
yeah,
they're like eager for the next thing. And what really happens to play out in businesses is that those users who are doing a lot of repetitive data entry, they're actually now managing vendor relationships, right? They're getting in and reviewing things. They're providing insights and analysis to stakeholders. And just as Jeff said, right, they are adding more strategic value. Their work is elevated. And the reality in the industry is that we've got a talent shortage in finance and accounting, and it's only getting worse.
yeah,
And so I've always argued there's two ways to solve that. First is through automation, but the second is make the career more attractive.
yeah,
Right? You
yeah,
want more people to get into a career in accounting, show them the great AI tools they're going to get to use, show them a world where they're actually having valuable interactions with humans and they're adding strategic value to a business. And so, I'm a huge believer that the accounting industry grows as a result of AI because it's able to deliver more value, right? Whether that's strategically within a business or accountancy firms outside of business and the value they deliver, it's only going to increase the value and make the career more attractive.
yeah. I couldn't agree more, and I think we see that as well. But Jeff, you wanna say a few things on
Yeah,
that?
I mean, Aaron hit on I think the most salient point on this topic. I guess I kind of think in the landscape of ERP, one of my favorite questions to ask people is what does ERP stand for? And you remember this one, Carmel, right?
Yeah.
So, and usually you ask that in a room and someone stands up or raises their hand like enterprise resource planning, and I say that's what we were all taught, but it actually stands for Excel replacement project because that's mostly what ERPs have turned into. And I think AI is kind of taking us to the next generation to the fear factor of the everything replacement project. And I think there's aspects of that are true, and it is understandably, like when you think at it at a macro level, it's like, wow, like it's a little disconcerting. It should be a little uncomfortable. Like it's a paradigm shift. It's a step function change in our world, especially in business, the same way that internet changed everything, right? But there's a component of it that just from a pragmatic perspective, like you don't need to call an operator, you don't need to pick up the phone and ask for an operator to connect you to someone to make a phone call anymore. But are telecommunications jobs like in jeopardy now? Like, no, like there's way more people in that field than there were, 100 years ago. So I guess the point is that it's hard to predict the new jobs that will emerge that will take the place of, in some cases, some of the jobs that may disappear or in a better way be elevated to a higher, value add contributions. So I think that it's understandable to have a little bit of trepidation about kind of the macro level shifts. And to be honest, it's probably something that, our generation and the current workforce generations, the younger generations are less afraid of these things. I feel like, maybe me and my cohorts are probably a little bit more sensitive to it, but I think just in general, I think that there's far more good that will be created, opportunities for people to do things that are professional and exciting in nature, and I think it'll take us away from some of the mundane. But there's a learning curve involved, but I don't think that there's any business out there that is, that truly is in jeopardy of like, oh my God, the AI evolution or revolution is gonna lead to mass exodus in my business and I'm going to be left empty-handed. People won't want to work here. I just don't think that there's any of those types of risks forthcoming.
Yeah, me either. I mean, I think even as we look at lots of tasks that are going to be automated and that are going to be enhanced utilizing AI, I think you guys are spot on, right? It's the AI is not here to alleviate the human interaction. It's actually here to promote it more so that the things that can be done automatically and in a more efficient way in terms of like analyzing data and looking at things. I mean, AI can analyze data much faster than any human can, right? That gives us more time to have the human interaction that we all need to be having. And to your point, Aaron, if we want to attract people into sort of some of the areas that we see a trend in declining workforce, this is a great way to do that, because certainly when you can tell people coming out of college that your accounting degree is going to be also related to managing AI, that's a lot more exciting than thinking about doing GL entries and processing invoices. All right, we're almost out of time, but is there anything else you guys want to say that is like I don't know, ERP AI related that we didn't cover today?
I would always want to throw out a safe harbor that we're going through one of the most exciting and disruptive moments, in technology evolution, certainly in my lifetime. I think equal to the internet, but happening much faster.
Yeah.
And it's really impossible to see where this is going to be in 3 or 5 years. We can all sort of see directionally where things are going. But one of the things, I was actually having a conversation with one of the leaders in Sage today, technology leader, and we were having a bit of an existential conversation about the future and what AI is going to cause. And I reminded him that, we're the technology leaders that are going to create that future. Right. So, we can sort of determine this outcome, right? If we want to have a future where AI is enriching the jobs that people have and making their lives more balanced, and tackling inequities in access to technology and wealth, right? That's on us, right? We've got the opportunity, and we can actually create that future. But right now, it could go anywhere, and it can go really quickly anywhere. And so it's tough to make these, super confident predictions about what's going to happen in 5 years. There's the famous computer scientist, and I can't believe that I'm spacing on his name right now. But he said that the best way to predict the future is to create it. Yeah, I think that's really where we are with AI.
Yeah, I can't even predict six months from now, none less 5 years, but changing so fast. Jeff, you want to add anything else?
No, I don't really have anything else to add. I definitely, Aaron, I think that was a brilliant actually addition to the conversation. I think I agree. I think that humans are shaping the direction of where AI is going and what we're going to do with it. So we're not simply just bystanders or passengers on this journey. We're stewards of it too. So
yeah. I think I also love the comparison, and I use it all the time too, Aaron. This is not unlike the invention of the internet and how quickly things change there, except it is going much faster than that did, and we are seeing that, right? And I tell people often that the train's left the station. You need to get on it. It's moving at a very fast pace right now, but it's going to move faster. So get on now while we're still onboarding people, right? So it is going to happen. Well, listen, I really appreciate you both coming to join us today. This was super informative and I think fun. And please join us next time on AI Got This when we talk to some Workday folks about AI and